anime has given us a lot of student council presidents. Some being strict rule enforcers, some being the masterminds, trying to pull strings and make the other confess, while others go around promising to liberate sex while throwing condoms into the crowd. However, there was a time when one student council president stood above the rest, and a lot of younger weebs tend to forget about her. But if you're old like me, and were watching animes in the late 2000s, you already know who I'm talking about. So class, it's time to sit down as I glaze over my favorite manga series of all time, Hayate Combat Butler. And let's talk about the best student council waifu you forgot about.
Konnichiwa. Watashi Katsura Hinagiku.
Class is now in session. Hina is one of these special characters in anime, as she immediately clicks the moment she shows up. She's got the pink hair, the determination, yet the moment we meet her, she's stuck in a tree and trying to ask for help to get down. She gets flustered very easily, and honestly, it's one of the most adorable parts of the entire series. Which, that says a lot, as this cast is full of chaos and stupidity, so it's nice to have a more grounded person who actually feels like a functioning human being. And I think that's what made her stand out, because in her prime, in the time Hayate was coming out, Hina was always at the top of the popularity polls over and over and over. And I have to agree, as she was my second pick for best girl until, Ruka showed up. If you want to know my thoughts about Ruka, check out the video I made last year. But yeah, I think Hina is very great because it's her contrast of character, as on the surface, she's the composed, confident archetype, yet the more that series digs into her, the more that perfect image starts to crack. And I'll be honest, I love this trope, because not only is she also like the prince of the school, she's just awesome. I laugh and I can smile every time she is on screen. Not many people can do that for me. Hina's past just isn't really easy. Much like Hayate, she was left with a massive debt of 80 million yen by her parents. Her sister managed to somehow pay it off through questionable means, but after that, the two of them were taken in by the Katsura family, and that helped shape everything. Hina became hardworking and dependable, the kind that other people will naturally look up to and confess their love for, unlike her sister who became a lazy bum. That kind of strength comes with a cost, because when you're used to handling everything alone, letting people see your weaker side isn't easy. And honestly, that's something a lot of people can relate to. Asking for help, showing vulnerability, it sounds simple, but it really isn't. Now, I could talk a lot about the great Hina moments, but a couple stand out. One of my favorites in that is the Violet Evergarden mansion arc. Watching the two live together is just adorable, and considering the absolute chaos that led to the situation makes it even better. But if I really had to pick a moment that shows her character, it's when Hayate ends up staying at her place. There's this scene where she finds him outside in the snow, barely dressed. He had been kicked out temporarily and given 1 million yen to survive. And of course, being Hayate, he gave most of it away to people in need. So, what does Hina do? She brings him home, no hesitation. And during that time, you start to see that she's developing feelings for him, yet refusing to admit it. She struggles with this, tries to avoid it, and that emotional awkwardness is peak Hina. And I'm definitely not the only one who liked her. If you were around during Hayate no Gotoku's peak, you remember how big she was. As I said earlier, she was everywhere. She was showing up in the rankings, the polls, the discussion, and she was just great. There are millions of figures of her. I think she actually has the most figures out of the entire series, which is crazy. That's kind of the thing I like about Hina, as I can still find many figures of her at any time scrolling through Mercari or going to my local used figure store. Hell, I even have a version of her in her swimsuit from the Golden Week arc. Yes, I have that. I don't care. Fight to me. I paid lots of money. But I absolutely love Hina. Unlike some of you unloyal lab rats who switch your favorite waifu every 3 months like the seasonal rotation, even some of the best waifus do fade to the background. Not because they got worse, but because something else came along and you new weebs just tend to forget about the past. And, you know, we got characters like Tsukasa now, so it's not like I'm starving for a good, grounded character. But Hina is one of those characters that I believe needs more respect than she gets these days. Because for a long time, she wasn't just in the conversation. She was absolutely dominating the competition. With all that said, we'll wrap up today's lesson. I think I've said as much as I can about this character without sounding like an annoying Wikipedia fandom article. So I'm fairly certain my editor is one export away from filing a formal complaint about my inability to keep these videos under control. So we're gonna do that. As for my Hada sensei, yeah, I'm not gonna stop shilling anytime soon. He is still my favorite mangaka, and I will keep pushing his work like it's part of a long-term research project. I already got a couple more videos planned later this year. So if you thought this was the end of my glazing of Sensei Hada, you're mistaken. Let me know down in the hate lab below if there is a waifu or husbando that deserves more respect. Not just your current favorite, the one you didn't replate the moment a new season dropped. As always, I'm Professor Plague, class dismissed.